Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the St. Louis podcast. I am your glorious host today, Eric Brown, sitting next to Chris Reisner. Welcome back.
Hey,
Hey,
been a while.
Today we have Nick Main on of the Eat Me in St. Louis podcast, and we're going to get into the weeds with him and his business. But before we do, this is St. Louis podcast. Each and every Friday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, we drop an episode on all major podcasting, audio, and video platforms where we meet with the most badass people and creators, talk about business, entrepreneurship, and current events. Let's jump into it. Nick, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on. Nothing more than I like talk about food. You know, we'll probably talk about some steak today, of course. We have to just give a shout out to Matt there. It's one of the many common things we always talk about is steak, just because I love steak, so I bring it up.
Best steak in St. Louis?
That's right.
I'm going to come to you for that.
My kitchen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I rarely eat steak out.
Mm-hmm.
And I do get that question every once in a while, and I'm just like, I don't really know. Like Ruth's, Chris's, that's...
Yeah, I would say Annie Gunn's in Chesterfield's great.
I've heard. I haven't been there.
Yeah, so Annie Gunn's is great. Ruth Chris is weird, though, because they bring it out on, like, that hot plate.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes by the time it gets to you, it's, like, too cooked, which is interesting. I don't know. Ruth Chris is weird. I think they're also overpriced, and I'd rather support local than a chain anyways.
Of
but
course.
Ruth Chris.
Yeah.
Ruth Chris in Kirkwood. Or not Ruth Chris. What's the place called in Kirkwood?
I have no clue. I'm not sure.
Citizen Kane's.
Oh, yeah.
Citizen Kane's is delicious. I mean, those are the two that I would recommend. Hamilton's used to be great.
Okay.
That's down there around, what is that? I guess Lafayette Square area right there. Hamilton's is great. They're right across. They're still across the street from where they had the rooftop Vindicet and all that stuff. But I think that whole building got essentially caught on fire. I think they're redoing it. I'm not too sure, but Vindicet, that whole building there, like got burnt up last year. But Hamilton's is still down there. They're always great. There's good spots. I just think really you look at the price of a steak.
Yeah.
It's like $60.
Yeah.
You know, $70. You're getting a big ass steak that's like $100, like 32 ounces. It's just like, I know that I could go to the butcher, get a $15 steak, and probably cook it
And do it the way you want to.
at least as good as they're cooking it, if not better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for different stuff like fish, I definitely like going out because I cannot cook fish. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I cannot cook fish to save my life. It's okay. It's never great though.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. Chris, can you
Probably
cook
not
fish?
fresh enough.
No, I get fresh fish. Well, we used to have.
Yeah, but how fresh can we actually get it in St. Louis anyway?
Well, the
Bob's
ones.
used to fly it in like every morning, I think. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Bob's?
They're not here anymore.
I don't know who's in charge now.
I was about to say Bob's Seafood was the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go there and get like fresh. That's where I always went for oysters or fish. But now I don't know who does it
Yeah.
because Bob's used to supply like most of the restaurants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows who's supplying it now?
Yeah, we gotta get out there and ask.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. All right, so Eat Me in St. Louis podcast. So I'm curious. 5 years ago, you said you started that.
That's right.
So that's before COVID. So that's before a lot of people started actually making their own podcasts. Before it became cool.
I guess so. Yeah. I got into podcasting because one of my friends had a podcast that he'd been doing since like 2010.
Okay.
So he's old school.
Yep.
And I enjoyed listening to his, and I guested on a couple episodes, and then he asked me to be one of the co-hosts, and I kind of got hooked. This isn't something that I would normally have thought that I would get into, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of an introvert, and so like I had to tune out the fact that people might be listening to this and just
Sure.
have a one-on-one conversation.
Yep.
But I did enjoy it, and I started thinking about like what I would do if I had my own podcast. And my friend Travis and I worked together, and you know we would have lunches, and we'd have a group of 5 or 6 of us, and we just spend the entire lunch talking about where we ate dinner, you
Mhm.
know. And so that was coming up all the time. And then another thing was, you know, you end up going to your same safeties all the time. You
Yep.
know, my wife and I would eat at the same 3 places over and over again.
Yep.
And it popped into my head that you could probably go to a new restaurant every single week in St. Louis, you know? For the good and the bad, there are always places opening and closing. It's
Yep.
a very competitive market. So that kind of came together, and I thought, like, you know, doing a new restaurant every week That sounds like a great idea. It's
Mhm.
an excuse to go out and eat at new places.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of it, is baking in like only new places. You know, we've all been to all the places that everybody loves, and wasn't interested in talking about that. It's going to be a review podcast for people who maybe don't have enough time to go everywhere, so
Mm-hmm.
or money, of course. But,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was a little aspirational, and we ended up doing it bi-weekly at first, and now we just do it when we get around to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's tough to be consistent on a podcast, especially for something like you do. If you're reviewing a new place every single week, then you have to schedule that
Yeah.
with everyone, make sure everyone's getting out there. From a standpoint over the last 5 years, what have you seen improve in restaurants, and what have you seen potentially no longer as good as it was before? Because I don't know if you find this to be the case, but I find it that service is definitely not as good as it was previous.
I can see that. It really depends on the place, of course, but
Yep.
the one thing that's obviously improved because of COVID is carry out, and
Mm-hmm.
ordering online. All of that has gotten better. Everybody has an option pretty much. So you know, if you like that, then it's golden days right now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I do. I love being able to go online and pick every single item that I want
Mm-hmm.
on my sandwich or whatever, you know, which of course you can probably do in the restaurant, but you end up coming off like a jerk when you're face to face with a guy and you're like, and I want this, and I want this, and I want that. Are you taking this down? And
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. So that's been nice. And of course, you know, getting out of COVID, there's still a lot of places that are doing like roadside pickup, and that's
Yep.
kind of nice too.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say that definitely was, which sucks, but obviously inevitability of COVID, was patios.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot better patios like everywhere, which
Yeah.
is great, because I think St. Louis used to be lacking. Like, we didn't really have any rooftop bars. Now we have a few.
Yeah.
But from an outdoor space perspective, I think we just always have done a bad job.
You know, I worked at a restaurant, Brant's. I don't know if you remember that.
No. Where was that at?
In the Loop.
Okay.
And when I first moved here, I worked there, and the owner, Jay Brandt, bragged that he brought patio dining to St. Louis. He said he went to Europe and nobody did it in America, and so
Yeah.
he introduced that. So I don't know if that's
Interesting.
true or not, but
Interesting. So when would that restaurant have opened?
so I moved here around 2004, so it was before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, it's St. Louis is just always bad about. I get it. Well, also I get it though. We have terrible winters
Yeah.
where no one wants to sit outside, and then we have 100-degree summers where also no one wants to sit outside. But we also have quite a few months of good weather, like right now, is like my favorite time of the year.
Yeah, it's great
100%.
out.
Yeah, besides the allergies, but what are you going to do about those?
Yeah.
So, okay. We talked actually about patios a couple weeks ago, which is interesting. I'm curious, what's the most interesting experience you have had in St. Louis?
As a whole,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big question. Gosh, I don't know. One time I went to, City Museum is one of the,
Yeah.
Absolute gems of
Mhm.
St. Louis. And when I first moved here, I found out that they had like all night raves there. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's ridiculous. Come on.
Yep.
And so right before COVID, they had like a Halloween party that was kind of like that. It wasn't all night, but
Mhm.
that was a nice experience to go to something with, DJs on every floor and everybody partying in costume and just the most ridiculous, surreal space, So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
They do that
Yes,
every
yeah.
year.
I didn't know
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah. And yeah, my wife and I made these costumes that were her idea, that we were sea anemones,
Okay.
which were just very kind of abstract, but had lights all over them. And we
Nice.
got a lot of love for those. And we had glow sticks that we're just handing out to anybody who said anything to us. And
Yep.
Yep.
Glow sticks are great.
Yeah.
That's something that a kid through adulthood, anytime you get it and then you crack it, that cracking
It's
sound.
very satisfying.
Oh my God.
Underrated.
It might be
yeah.
one of the most satisfying things.
Yeah.
That and like popping bubble wrap.
Oh, yeah.
Two great things.
Yeah. I have a pile of both of them in my basement. So ready to go whenever I need it.
Anytime it's one of those days, you're like, I'm going to the basement for 10 minutes. Just have a video of you jumping on.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to also mention when we're talking about just like amazing experiences. Have you ever been to Joe's Cafe?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
This is one of those just weird, another unique, very hidden gem because it's just in a neighborhood right off of Skinker. And the backyard basically looks like City Museum or Venice Cafe or something like that, where it's just like visual overload.
Yep.
They're, finding all these like old artifacts. I think there's a big boy statue and things like that, and they're all just kind of welded together to create art.
Interesting.
But the venue is only open, I think, on Thursday evenings, and it's BYOB. They only serve like popcorn and coffee.
Yeah, it says Thursday from 8 to 11.
Yeah.
So what do they do the other?
I guess somebody just lives
They're
there.
an art gallery.
It's but I think even that is like invite only, or you have to call ahead or something. But they have musicians come and play there, and I had somebody in from out of town, and we went and just didn't know what we were in for, and they fill up pretty fast too.
Yeah,
it's like a great little neighborhood spot. But they had this band in there that was like just this like 70s family band, where it's just like 8 kids and parents and an uncle, and they're all doing percussion, and it was ridiculous, but it was a magical experience.
Yeah, that place looks awesome. I've never heard about this place before. I'm gonna have to add it to the bucket list. I'm gonna have to get out here. This is like Venice Cafe is great too.
Yeah,
that place is always amazing. Any place that like has a good vibe, is different, takes you like it's almost like you're no longer in St. Louis.
Yeah,
you're in this different transcendent area. It's great. So what out of over the last 5 years, obviously you've went to a ton of different restaurants. What is one that you would recommend to absolutely everyone?
Well, I got to go with something that's just fresh in my mind right now. But Neon Greens just opened up in the Grove, and it's a salad place, but it's amazing. And the cool thing about them is they're growing the greens there on site.
Really?
Yeah, they have like this little vertical farm right next door to it.
Yeah, and
you can see into it, and they have the lettuce come down on conveyor belts into the restaurant, and so that's one of those fun family things that we had a guest whose son was like, "Whoa, this is my favorite place ever," just because of the conveyor belts.
Interesting.
So
you know who'd love that would be Clayton.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah. Okay, that's cool as hell. So they grow microgreens and things there too, I would assume.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 different types of lettuce, and they have pretty small menu. It's just like 10 salads. They have 3 seasonal ones, and one of them's always a collaboration. So the one right now is, I think, with Grace Meat Plus 3.
Yeah. Grace is great.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Grace in a long time. Their chicken is phenomenal.
It's great. I love them.
And you got Gramophone right across the street too.
Oh, that's one of our favorite places. Like,
I love Gramophone.
Travis and I just talk about that place all the time. It's
how many sandwiches do they have? Like 25, 30?
30 at least.
Yeah.
And they're changing them out a lot. And the genius thing I always say about them is that the 2 half sandwiches are the same price as a full sandwich. So every time I go, I might get a safety, but I always mix and match.
Always.
Yeah.
Anybody that gets 1 sandwich there, I'm like, you gotta get 2.
Yeah.
You gotta go 2. No, I used to have a list on my old phone, probably on an app I don't even have anymore, of the sandwiches and me rating those sandwiches.
Oh, really?
I can let me see if I can actually.
We have a friend who's been on the podcast a couple times who has a Instagram handle, STL Sandwich Man, and he has a spreadsheet of at least like 200 plus sandwiches with all sorts of ratings about them that you can go and look at that I'm pretty impressed by. I love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah. So I have on here the Alcatraz.
Okay.
8 out of 10. And Smoky Bear, 8 out of 10.
I've had the Alcatraz. I don't remember the Smoky Bear.
I don't remember the Smoky Bear either.
Yeah,
I don't remember what any of these are.
Yeah.
But I've got
a few
reviews. Yeah, I've got some reviews.
The beef
Apparently,
8 out of 10.
apparently I wasn't a big fan of the cauliflower or mac and cheese, but everything.
Mm.
Oh, the jalapeno soup,
I've never had that.
incredible.
Okay.
Jalapeno soup is incredible.
We did this thing last year where we call it STL Sandwich Quest,
Mm-hmm.
and we made a poster with 48 sandwiches from, and they're all classic sandwiches. Okay?
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of recommendations, tried a bunch of stuff, picked our favorite of them, and when we picked the peanut butter and jelly, we got it from Gramophone. And here's the thing: is at some point we decided it had already been going, so we didn't have any repeats. So we just decided to only have one per, sandwich.
Sure.
One restaurant per. And everybody got mad at us that we picked the peanut butter and jelly from Gramophone. They're like, "Why? They have so many better sandwiches, but they're all, unique creations that are like
Yes.
house-made kind of things that didn't fit it, but they make a really good PBJ." So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I've definitely never had their PBJ.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna get it again because
Sure.
they have so many good options. But
Sure.
just if you ever are craving a PBJ, you should go there.
Interesting. I used to be a big PBJ guy.
Yeah.
I feel like that was like a hallmark of a lot of kids that grew up, maybe even a long time, like PB&J for lunch.
Oh, yeah.
So many kids had a PB&J for lunch.
Yeah.
And I was the kid in middle school that usually wasn't hungry at lunch. So I might have thrown my food a couple times.
Thrown your
You
food.
Oh,
could have at
we
least
used-
sold it.
We had
Food fights?
Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
couple food fights for sure.
Oh man.
Just our tables. There was always like 3 tables on the far side of the lunchroom, right next to like the bathroom. So it was a madhouse.
You were that guy.
Oh, middle school was brutal. Being a middle school teacher, I don't know how you do that. That would be the worst because everyone is just, no one knows the hell they're doing. They're like having their first hormones all run
Yeah.
through them, and everyone's just weird and mean.
Yeah.
Literally.
I feel like high school gets the worst rep for being like the worst time of your kids' lives. But by high school, I kind of had found my group and
Yep.
like was a little mature.
Mhm.
Middle school was just hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Middle school is hell. You don't know anything really about yourself. You're trying to prove yourself to everyone. It's
Yeah.
like you have no sense of self. You're just trying to find yourself in middle school.
Yeah.
And also your body's doing a ton of weird shit too.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about that. So, okay. Yeah, is there any good new restaurants out? Because we talked about Neon Greens.
Hmm.
Is there anything that's like new out this year that's a must hit? I don't know if I've been to any like new restaurants that are out. I need to still go to the Speakeasy under the Foundry.
I
Apparently
haven't been there yet.
apparently that's a good vibe and a
Yeah.
good time. But that's not really food. It's more so drinks.
I don't know if it was this year, but have you been to Sato yet?
Yes.
Okay. I think they might have been last year, but
Amazing. Yes.
I'm pulling up my cheat sheet here.
Yeah, Sato's great. Indo.
Yeah, Indo is one of my favorites. It might not be for everybody, but there's a new vegan deli and butcher that I'm not vegan myself, obviously, but can't recommend them enough.
A vegan butcher.
Yes, it's called Vegan Deli and Butcher, which one of the things I love about this place is
What do they butcher?
Yeah,
Just-
what are they
well,
butchering?
they specialize in sandwiches that have fake meats in them. Now we've reviewed a few vegan places in the past, and the sentiment was always stop trying to fake meat
Yes.
and just be, a salad's delicious. There are tons of good Indian food that are vegan. Like, why are you trying to fake meat?
That was
I don't know. The Impossible Burgers are
I-
pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
They're also not good for you.
I like the
No, they're
Impossible
not.
sauce.
They're
No.
awful for you. They're all like seed oil and shit.
But
Yeah, because it's all. It says processes you could possibly get.
yeah, I still feel like supporting that is kind of good to lower the meat industry a little bit, and to create options for that. Actually, the first episode we recorded was on Twisted Ranch, which
Yeah.
had blown up and gone viral, and so we were starting the podcast, and we were like, "Oh, we've got to do this," because also we hate ranch, and so this would be a fun topic.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend it though if you like ranch, if you haven't been there, but not for us. Yeah. But anyway,
I've been there. It's not my cup of tea.
yeah. So right after we started the podcast, like the first week, they announced that Burger King was going to be doing the Impossible Whopper, and St. Louis was going to be the first test region. And so the day they announced it, I was like, Travis, emergency podcast.
Got to go get this.
So like an hour later, we're at Burger King ordering and recording there, it's the only time I've ever put a podcast out the day we recorded.
Yeah.
So, like, we actually have some news here. This was supposed to be focused on local restaurants, but forget it. Let's do this. But
I
but
mean,
how
that's still
was
very
it?
local.
Wait, how was it?
the Whopper.
Yeah, at the time. Well, what'd you rate it?
I thought it was great. You can still tell the difference, like the texture, but for me, like most of the Whopper flavor is it's got the char grilled flavor to it, and the Impossible Whopper does have a bit of that, but then all the ingredients and the vegetables and mayonnaise and ketchup and stuff, they're doing a lot of the work there. So
Sure.
I thought it was just as good. Travis had actually never had a Whopper before, which blew my mind. So
Interesting.
we both got two to compare, and he didn't like the Impossible Whopper, but
yeah.
He also just likes to be contrarian. So
Sure.
who knows? But
that's fair.
Yeah. But what I was going to say about Vegan Deli and Butcher,
Yeah.
they not only are faking meats, like I was saying, but they double down on it, and I love them for it, because you walk in and the menu is just like, turkey sandwich. Like, it doesn't tell you any of the tofurkey kind of silly cutesy names like that. But then they have like
they literally have Italian beef, Philly cheesesteak, Cuban. What?
Yeah.
Reuben?
Yeah. So I got the hot salami because I thought that sounded good. And then I got the lobster roll because I was like, "There's no way this could be good."
Yeah.
I just wanted to challenge them.
Yeah.
They were both great.
Oh my God.
And then he gave me a sample of the chicken salad that they're working on, which was amazing. It was the best of the three, actually. I don't know how they got the texture with that.
Where is this place? Oh, so this is
Graboy, it said.
Yeah.
Oh, down in Bevo?
Yeah, it's right across from the windmill.
Interesting. Vegan Deli and Butcher. I would have never thought, well, I guess that makes sense. Prices don't look too bad. Yeah, prices
especially not for vegan.
Yeah, prices don't look too
It's
bad.
usually expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 13.
My thing was always like with the Boca burgers and all this stuff. It's like, why as a vegan do you want to like have? I've always been like, why do you want to have fake meat?
Yeah. I went up and talked to him. I was like, okay, I've got a dumb question. Are you vegan? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, how do you know what all this stuff tastes like?
Right. Yeah.
And he was like, I remember it from 30 years ago. I'm like, all right. And then the woman he was working with was like, and I taste test them. So she's not vegan, but
got it. Okay. That's very cool.
I mean, a lot of people are vegan because of reasons besides just, hey, I want to be vegan, whether it's food allergies or the environment or whatever.
Yeah.
So like they can like the taste of meat, or like it doesn't have to be, hey, don't kill animals. So like,
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I've looked at like I've tried to be vegetarian in the past, mainly because I had a girlfriend in the past that was vegetarian. Usually you'll try if you date someone that's vegetarian. I can't. Maybe looking at it now, I could do it, but it's like the amount of calories and protein and stuff. It seems tough to get all of that stuff in that you need. The vegetarian route.
I just try to cut back a little bit on. You don't have to have meat every single meal, and that's
correct.
Silly, but my wife is not vegetarian, but doesn't eat meat out. She just doesn't trust.
What do you mean?
Cooks and chefs to prepare them.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah.
So she only eats meat at home.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Unless I say something's great and she should try it.
Sure.
Yeah. So
there's definitely some places you can't trust. I don't trust the way that people be just preparing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all restaurants, but some of them you're like,
That's true. Yeah. I mean, most kitchens are clean.
Chicken that's just a little on edge.
Yeah, just don't go to those places. If you go to good places, you shouldn't have to worry about that type of stuff. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Another new place I want to mention, Black Salt, is a little bit outside of the city, but it's a new Indian restaurant that it's in a strip mall. It's a little unassuming, but they have really good meals there. And they're doing things that,
Oh my! I've been there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I went there with my my dad and my brother. My brother recommended. We went in there and got like 5 different plates of things.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Yeah, the owners are trying to do something like outside of the normal Indian restaurant menu, and so they're experimenting a little bit with things that New York and India is doing with fine dining.
Well, I think the biggest problem with like with Indian food is most people just don't know anything about it. So they go in, they always refer to like the chicken tiki.
Yeah.
You know, everyone gets the same thing.
Yeah. And my problem with Indian food, I'm just now starting to learn about it really. But for years, I loved Indian food, but I would only get the buffet. And so I'm just like, some of that. I have no idea what I'm eating. It's delicious.
Yep.
But yeah. So it's only been in the past, I don't know, since we started the podcast that I've been having to pay attention to the menus, you know. And I should also point out, like, when we started this podcast, I didn't know anything about food. Like, when I started, I of course, you know, love food.
Yeah.
But talking about the group that sat together at lunch,
Mm-hmm.
of them, I was probably the least knowledgeable about food.
Interesting.
Because when I grew up, it was just like, you know, my parents did their best, but they weren't huge fans of cooking. So
Sure.
it wasn't until I went to college in Savannah, and there's a big international student body there, and so I started expanding my palate a bit. And yeah, so we approach this podcast as like an everyman's journey into food, which not everybody gets, and sometimes we get, you know, called out for mispronouncing a type of ramen or something.
Yeah,
like that.
who
It's
cares? Yeah, give us a break. We're
Yeah.
not experts here.
Exactly. So yeah, Indian's one of those that was kind of a blind spot, but I do love it.
Yeah, and in St. Louis, there is so many different cultural food spots. Like if you want anything, we have it here in St. Louis, and we have a good spot for it.
Yeah, I think so.
But I feel like I don't know, maybe it's a St. Louis or a Midwestern thing. I feel like a lot of us stick to like the typical American food, burgers, chicken clubs, you know, etc. But recently, I feel like especially with COVID, everyone got bored, especially sitting at home. They're like, I need some new shit. And now we have a ton of good food. I'm curious, you talked about cooking food. I find that less and less people know how to cook now.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And
You see that as a problem?
I mean, yeah, you should know how to cook. But
Yeah.
I personally, you know, if I had my way, I would cook once a week.
Yeah.
I'd make a big show of it. Eat leftovers for a couple of nights, eat out the other nights, and then have some PB&Js, or, you know, have some easy food the rest of the time. But yeah, for me, it's like, if I'm gonna cook, I want to, you know, spend 4 hours doing it and like casually getting everything together and playing music and having a good time with it. But I don't want to do that every night.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I've been cooking a lot at night, and it's like, it's a long process. I'm a single guy, so I don't got any help. So I have to clean all myself, but it's a struggle bus. You know what I'm saying? Got to vacuum myself, got to wipe it down myself.
Do you do any like meal prep?
Sometimes
Okay.
I do have a couple. My biggest thing with meal prep though is I get bored.
Oh yeah.
And it's like I could cook something for a couple days, but also it's like I don't want to meal prep on Sunday for like Friday. It's like I don't want to eat something that far out.
Yeah.
Even if I know it is still good 4 or 5 days later, I'm like, I don't really want it.
I only meal prep for like 2 or 3 days max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it's
But
like
food's so damn expensive now at restaurants.
Yeah.
And even like food delivery is a big thing. And just in terms of not like DoorDash, but in terms of like Factor and HelloFresh and all these people getting food delivered. But then you look at the price on those.
Yeah.
It's like those are insane.
Yeah. I will say I got HelloFresh during the pandemic, and then I stopped using it at some point. And then every 6 months or so, they'll send you a coupon that's like 75% off your first box, and every single time I'll get the first box and cancel it.
Yeah.
And wait another 6 months, and yeah, that's good.
So that's worth it.
Yeah.
So is HelloFresh, do they give you the ingredients and you make it, or it gives you you just warm it up?
You know, they give you the ingredients and you make it, and they say it's only 5 steps, but step 2 is like 10 different things. So
Yeah.
and you're supposed to be able to do it within, you know, it'll say like 15, 20, 30 minutes, but you know, you can't do it unless you have everything prepped and ready to go beforehand. It's kind of silly, but
Gotcha.
I mean, even then, like 30 minutes of cooking is still quite a bit of time after you've gotten home from work, and you know, if you've got kids or anything, like that's a long time to be cooking still.
yeah, it can be.
That's what I think about. That's what I was thinking about last night. I was like, got home
And then
from
you gotta
work.
clean dishes, yeah.
I was like, having kids, this is going to be tough.
Well, hopefully you have some help then.
That's
That's
why
true.
you have the kids.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Got a 3-year-old. Got a little stool for him, cleaning dishes.
My parents had me cleaning dishes at 5, and I did it till I moved out at 20. So
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so we got Cinco de Mayo coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about Mexican food real quick.
Okay.
What are your favorite spots?
I love a little bit of Tex-Mex,
Mhm.
you know. So Mi Ranchito hits it for me. It's right nearby, and they have the best service in town. No matter what time of day, they'll get you seated and your food out to you so fast. Um, that's not full Tex-Mex, but it is very cheesy, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah. But if you want authentic, taquero Durango
Mm-hmm.
is fantastic. It's on Page. And there's a brand new place on Del Mar called Amigo Soul.
Okay.
And I've only been there once, but I do highly recommend it. They have a birria tacos that is just fantastic. And then they do this like corn on a stick that's just like slathered with spices. And,
Mm-hmm. That sounds incredible.
yeah. And then their like gimmick, I guess, is they have a wall of shoes. They're sneakerheads, which
Okay.
so it's Amigo Soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Ah.
Have you ever been to Mi Lupita in Baldwin?
No,
And it's right next to like a Hallmark.
I don't think so.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, the family there that owns it is awesome. They have every time I go in there, almost I get Letty's tacos. It's like deep fried
Mm-hmm.
tacos. It's incredible. Their margarita is incredible. They have like a hand shaken margarita that's out of this world. Mi Lupita is a good spot.
I'll put that down.
And then there's also one in Wildwood. I can't remember the name of it. It maybe 2 years old now. Great reviews. Let's see. I'm gonna have to look it up.
I'll write down Milapita.
What's the name? Come on. I know where you're at. Oh, Malinche.
Malinche.
Yeah. Malinche Mexican Culinary Experience. It's a little bit, it's just something that's up your alley 100%.
Okay.
It's a little bit different and it's great. The vibe in there is awesome. The owners there are cool as hell too. And they don't have a patio though.
Oh man,
Always goes back to the patio.
Yeah, they don't have a patio though.
I can't remember what the name of it was, but there was a place on Del Mar, like right outside of the Loop, that had a Mexican place with a patio that was just so nice. It wasn't even that scenic, but it had the vibe that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the massive place on Manchester? A little bit.
Hacienda.
Yeah, Hacienda.
Where you go for the patio.
Yes.
When you have a party of 20 and want to eat Mexican.
I
Hacienda.
always forget about Hacienda.
Yeah.
That place is massive.
Yeah.
That's a vibe. You ever been to Hacienda?
Nope.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun time. Yeah, that place is literally huge. The building itself, like the inside, you get lost. You're like, where the hell am I? So they got like 3 different sections. So some events that we have going on for Cinco de Mayo in St. Louis. So we got a festival on Cherokee Street on the 4th. Apparently more than 30,000 attendees are expected on Cherokee Street. Del Mar Loop Taco Crawl on the 5th, 4 to 8 p.m. Might have to go down there for that.
Mm-hmm.
Taco Crawl sounds good. Do you ever go to the ice thing that Del Mar does every?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Where they have all the ice sculptures. They got Fiesta de Mayo at Ballpark Village, May 5th. And then also in Webster Groves. Enjoy a scenic 5K course. Interesting. So they have a 5K in Webster Groves on May 5th. So that's a good way to get it started. Do a 5K and then start drinking immediately after that.
I mean, why not just start drinking during?
Oh, that's true.
It's only 5 kilometers.
Have you ever seen the mile? Do they have to run like a mile or whatever?
Or beer mile?
The beer mile?
Where they do a lap and then they chug
They
a beer?
have to chug a beer?
I haven't seen that.
There's a TikTok series. He's been challenging athletes and beating them.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a specific way. Because there's a specific way to drink it, so that way you're not like burping essentially the whole time
Okay.
and still being able to run. Yeah, it's interesting. I know that guy on YouTube you're talking about.
I mean, you've got to be a world-class athlete and alcoholic to be
Yeah.
able to do that.
I saw another one on TikTok. I think that was it was like 20K. I don't know how long a full marathon is,
Yeah.
but I remember him drinking about 20 glasses of wine, and each
Oh my
each
god.
stop he had somebody hand him a glass of wine, and sometimes he'd just like have a little bit of it, sometimes he'd down the whole thing, but then he would tell you the year and the type of wine and the country it was from, and
No
yeah.
shit.
Wait, he did that as part of a marathon?
yeah.
Dear Lord.
This is great marketing.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's so fun. I don't know how at the end you're not just like falling around. You end up
Isn't
running
it-
backwards. You don't even know where you're going.
Yeah. A lot of training for that guy.
That's right. That's right.
26 miles. So probably 26 glasses of wine. That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, 20 kilometers. Look up.
No, marathon.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably-
yeah.
26.2 miles.
Yeah, that's running a marathon. I would like to run a marathon. Maybe I'll have to say it on the podcast
If you do the wine.
and put a date down.
Commit to
for
it
it.
I
right
could see you
now.
doing the
I know,
wine.
that's what I'm saying. If I commit to it on the podcast, I'll have to do it. We'll bring it back up
Next.
next week.
Marathon. I won't be here to hold you to that.
No, look up marathon. Well, let's start with the half marathon.
Why don't you run
Let's start with
the
the half.
Boston Marathon?
Ooh, that's everyone hates Mark Wahlberg for some reason, but that's actually not a bad movie. It's fucked up. That story's terrible. But the Boston bombing movie.
Here you go.
That
Cowbell
story
Marathon
is
in St.
insane.
Charles, October 6th.
Yeah.
That gives you, what, 6 months to prepare?
Do I have any marathon trainers that want to reach out to me? Let me know if that's enough time.
Yeah, I don't know how long you actually need to train.
Send me a DM.
How fast do you think you could run a mile now?
Ooh, run a mile, 8 minutes.
Mm.
I could do it faster probably, but why? At what cost?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like at this point I'm probably at like,
Is somebody
I don't know,
chasing
less
me?
than an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Am I running from something? Because that's a different time. All right. Let's see here. So what are like some of the main things when you review a restaurant that you look at? Is there like 3 main criteria that like you essentially score on?
Yeah, we well, first of all, I want to say, like, when we first started out, we were, we were going to do it anonymously,
Mhm.
so we could give, objective reviews.
Yes.
We didn't want, and we still do that for the most part, although our names are out there a little bit, but we don't put our faces on the social media and stuff like that. And when people ask us to review them,
Mhm.
we, don't go and tell them when we go.
Sure.
Sometimes if somebody is like, hey, we want to, give you a free meal if you want to post it on social media, we'll do that. We'll talk to them and get a little bit of backstory there. But for the most part, we go in blind. And, we ask our guests, like, make sure you focus on the full experience. Like,
Yeah.
everything from parking to where you put your trash and like what the staff is doing in the back, and, just kind of absorb it. Like, you
Yep.
don't have to report back everything, but we're there to joke around and tell stories, and obviously sometimes that's from the lady who's sitting next to you who's like yelling at her children or something
Mhm.
like that. That's interesting.
Yep.
And then so yeah, when we do it, we break it down just simply experience. Well, first we do a little bit of history, then we do Yelp reviews, then we do the experience, and then usually we start talking about the food accidentally during the experience, and then we say, wait, hold on, stop,
Yep.
and then we go to the next segment, the food. And then we do a wrap it up segment,
Mhm.
give our overall thoughts. But we don't do scores anymore.
Gotcha.
We had to kind of rethink things during the pandemic. We were never like, going too harsh on people.
Mhm.
But when the pandemic started, it's like, there's no way I'm going to give a negative review to a restaurant when everybody's just like kind of struggling to
Yeah.
get by. And
Yeah, it's
especially
tough.
restaurants during that time.
Yeah.
And so we took a break during then. And when we came back, we were just kind of talking about the place and trying to plus them up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of settled back to where we are now, where we give our honest takes. Sometimes we have some complaints and stuff.
Sure.
But I think through the context of the actual long form conversation format, you understand that, we're not going to review a place that we absolutely hate. So
Sure.
for the most part, we're only talking about places that we like.
Mm-hmm.
They're all new, so they might have some
Issues.
slip ups, and
Yeah, yeah.
and so we understand that, and we don't want to like put a score on it and mark them for life or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So
What's your worst experience been? You don't have to name the place. Is there a place that you went into review and it was either the food or just the service? It was just terrible. You're like, I would never recommend this to anyone.
there was a vegan place,
Mhm.
and I've obviously mentioned a few like
Yep.
that. I'm, tried to be a supporter, but I got something there that was so bad that I was just like, call it off. Like, I don't, because I'm the one who of the three of us
Yeah.
that is usually like pushing for it the most, and I'm
Yep.
just like, nope, we're not doing it. Never mind.
Well, what was the sentiment of that place? Are they still in business?
I believe so, but I haven't been back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have good reviews? Do other
Yeah, they did have good reviews.
Interesting.
And I don't want to, the thing I got was a jackfruit steak and cheese.
Okay.
And if you've ever seen a jackfruit steak and cheese, they're very convincing looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bite into it, and this particular one was a completely different flavor.
Yeah.
And not one that agreed with me.
Gotcha.
And so I just that was just bad. I will say that the lobster roll from Vegan Deli and Butcher has some jackfruit. I think it's jackfruit and artichoke hearts to make that lobster texture, and that works great.
Yeah.
They do a good job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So was the experience bad there as well, or just the food?
Oh yes, the experience was bad. It was.
Okay.
It's a very. I
Yeah.
forgot about this actually.
Yeah.
Very small location,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody who like the customers were, and this was during COVID.
Sure.
And so everyone's like crammed into a space. People are loud, and this is not on them,
Mm.
but because everyone's so crammed, I backed up into a table that had chairs on it, and everything fell.
Oh my
And
god.
so this is my personal bad experience.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah. And you had a cringe moment. You're
Yeah.
like, damn it.
um,
No one saw that. No one saw that.
Yeah. And then I don't want to get into it because, well, one place that we reviewed, I was doing some like last minute research on them,
Mhm.
and I found some information on the owner that I just ethically could not agree with, and I almost called it off, but I had people coming over. It was an hour before we recorded,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we did it, and I just like ignored it, but yeah.
That's fair. So I will give a shout out real quick to Blue Duck. Do you know Blue Duck?
I do know Blue Duck.
They just put a patio on the roof.
Oh, on the roof?
On the roof.
Okay. They had that
Of-
little side area.
Of the side building
Okay.
where the office used to be.
Okay.
So it's behind. It's like if you're looking at it from the side street, you know how they have the patio.
Yeah.
So the door that would go into essentially their back area, there's a staircase that goes up to it. So now where their office used to be is like the second floor. Now
Okay.
it's a private event space, and then you can also rent the top.
Nice.
So you can, yeah. So now you can rent the event space and the roof. Or, of course, they can just have it open so you can go to the roof. But I was like, this is incredible. It's like we need more outdoor spaces. Going back to outdoor spaces. We
Yeah.
need more outdoor spaces. But, yeah. And Blue Duck's just great spot. I love their drinks and food.
Yeah. For a long time I was saying their burger was my favorite burger.
Mm.
They had a black and blue, which I don't know if it was a special, but it was fantastic. And then they had during Burger Week, they had one that was just amazing.
Yeah.
But I went back recently and it wasn't that good. So I don't know if I just had a bad
Interesting.
day. But
Yeah. Before we get out of here, that's all the time we got for today. Please tell the viewers where they can find you if they want to listen to you, look back at all the other podcasts you guys have recorded.
Sure. Yeah, we're on eatmeinstlouis.com. Of course, you can find us on any podcasting app, so wherever you want that. You can also find us on Instagram. We post a lot of food pics, so those are the main places.
Cool. Well, Nick, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
That is all the time we have for today. However, we will be back next week with a new episode, new guest, and more of myself here and someone sitting next to me. We'll see who it is. If you're watching live or later, we said something wrong, said something you hate, or said something you want to hear more about, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, share to a friend. We recorded this episode at Half Coast Studios. If you're looking to start a podcast or take your current podcast to the next level, whether you're local to St. Louis and want to record here, or have them edit and distribute that content, you can reach out to them at halfcoaststudios.com. Thank you, Matt, for taking care of us. And that's all the time we have. Thank you. See everyone next week.
1, 2, 3.